I can't hear you, coach. Can hear you not loud and clear, coach. Um, what a day. Another day of what's that? Hey, I'm Coach Paul. Been with Topstep for 2 years now. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades.
Oh, wow. Coach, let me start over. Uh, they could not hear anything I said. I'm back now. There we go. Uh, yeah, I'm a little out of it right now. Sorry, chat. But
Benadryl.
you should be able to hear me now. Yeah, I was telling Coach Paul in the green room, I had a little allergic reaction to something that I ate today. I don't know if it was like granola in my yogurt or something. Took some Benadryl and a little out of it right now. So you should be able to hear me now. Sound is low. Let me turn it up. All right, we're good to go. This is live TV. Doing it live.
This time for sure.
This time for sure you guys should be able to hear me now. Let me confirm that before we keep going. All right, there we go. Andrew confirmed it. Mic volume should be good. We're good. I was giving credit to Shay Balor on Twitter, who came up with this post. Introducing myself, I'm Coach Jay. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, introduce yourself and we'll get right into it. I feel I'm back. I'm back.
He's back, and that's a good thing. Well, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for 2 years. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experience, some knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. You are all our chat, our audience. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for bearing with me through a little technical difficulties right there. Let's get right into these markets. Let's take a look at the planned news. Today is May 29th. We got one more trading day left in the month. And we had initial jobless claims come in at 240,000. Forecast was 230,000. We did have a US GDP quarter over quarter estimate coming at negative 0.2%. Forecast was negative 0.3%. And a couple Fed speakers. We had crude oil inventory numbers come out. Uh, but the big news, again, Coach Paul, we've been saying this for 3 months now.
Um, at least 3 months. Yep.
The planned news is still more sorry, unplanned news still more important than the planned news currently. Coach Paul, we heard last night about the courts doing away with tariffs. That was that post I just shared there. Uh, Courts doing away with tariffs, basically saying that they're unconstitutional. Last night we saw the markets rally. Of course, we know with the president and how strongly he feels about these tariffs that we're going to see an appeal. So then courts, allowed that appeal, said the tariffs are back on, and I think as of recent, you said sorry, tariffs are off, and now as of recent, we're back on again. Can you guys tell how confusing this is right now? This is
You say
exact.
off, I say on.
This is
Off,
exactly what's happening right
on.
now.
And the market is showing it. Um, like all news, the only really news, and we had the big earnings report, which was positive last night. The tariffs are off. It's all good until it's not. Like you said, how many months now have we been captured in this? We're in a political environment. This isn't a market environment. Another big news that was shocking to me is the Fed Chair Powell met with Trump. They
Right.
broke bread. I hope they didn't break him any other things, but it's the first time Powell has met with the president since 2022. Very interesting development. Bonds reflected it with a decent rally, short covering rally, but these are very
Interesting times.
interesting times, as a Chinese proverb said. May you live in interesting times. May sound like a nice thing to say, but it's actually a curse. And boy, well, at least the equity markets have reflected that last night and today.
They have CSUN Moon Lover says volatility good for day trading. And that's exactly it, right? As far as the economy goes and things like that, who knows what the effects of these tariffs and trade deals are going to be. We're day traders here, and we're going to get right into the charts. It's a perfect opportunity for us to take advantage of some volatility. So let's take a look at the quote board. We have 35 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts. And today, to the downside, we had crude oil down 1.5%, RBOB gasoline futures down 1.61%, and heating oil, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 2.04%. To the upside, we had the ultra bonds up 0.79%, silver up 0.89%, and live cattle, our biggest percentage mover to the upside at 0.92%. We talk about our big four. We already talked about crude down 1.5, S&P's up 0.31%, gold up 0.55%, and the Nasdaq up 0.08%. Pretty much a flat day for the Nasdaq, which is insane with all of the volatility that we had. We are right back to where we settled yesterday prior to the Nvidia earnings. I got a Nasdaq chart up here, Coach Paul. Take a look at the daily. What are we seeing here on the daily chart in the Nasdaq?
We're still holding that 200. The 20s crossed over. We're try to make a break to the upside on some light volume. And we'll go back to a discussion on this rally last night. What was that on? Light volume.
Light volume. Yep,
Um,
gave it all back.
Gave it all back, and we can go through that a little deeper. But it's still um onward and upward. Big wick, but that was from last night. If we just look at the days range, it'd be a little different.
Right.
Um, but all in all, we we were sharply unchanged today. Is this a precursor for a summer? I don't know, but it was sharply unchanged, and I'd like to hear it. And it was volatility is good for day trading. If you follow your process, it gave you some opportunities on both sides of this market. So, yeah, a very true statement. Um, if you're undisciplined in this market, it can be very, very frustrating. But still, all in all, that doesn't look like a top to me. Um, well, how about you, Coach?
Yeah, I agree. Again, opportunity. We are still in this range, right? We looked like we wanted to break out. Hogue was talking about this, the excess on the upper extreme of this range. It's a lot of failed buying up there, right, in that wick. And you know, really not much has changed as far as the market sentiment goes about these prices in a little while, in about 2 weeks. We know we saw that huge 1,500 lot order that got filled at 21,009, 21,399.75 a couple weeks ago. Look at where we're trading, 6 points above that price. Uh, and the market's found balance, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Is it basing for the next move up? Potentially. And I think with the uh, news that we saw last night, with the courts kind of doing away with the tariffs, shows you what the market wants, right? If tariffs go away, the markets look like they wanted to rally and go test 22,000, make new all-time highs soon. But that hasn't been the case. So it's interesting fundamentally what will happen here. And we're technical traders, so let's talk about the technicals. Let's take a look at last night's open, Coach Paul. One of the smallest 30-minute ranges we've seen in a long time.
which gives rise to urgency. So let's attach that VWAP to last night's opening half hour.
Opened the market and said, "Run it, let's go."
Um,
We got no
it
time to wait.
and it was literally in a hurry. Interestingly, for my it for my daily numbers, it hit the third resistance level almost by 4 points. My resistance was oh 03. I think at the oh 06 was the high. Either way,
In
at
the
that
S&P
point,
or in the Nasdaq?
S&P, the Nasdaq, it went above and beyond the third level. But as we talked, look at the volume. And we talked last night about night volume. It's light volume.
Yep.
It's pure, mostly price movement. Interestingly, we got to that level, one sideways, and what happened in Europe, where our first sign of volume came. And look at that. It's just a big U-turn.
Yeah, it
Um,
really is. What Coach Paul is talking about here is, we talked about that non-validation. This price went very far without a not with minimal market participation, right? So think about you're a New York session trader. Prices are down here. You wake up, you want to be long, and we're 2% higher. Are you going to continue to buy that up there? Uh, is the question. And we return right back to the scene of the crime. Settlement again. Like you said, Coach Paul, the selling came in during Europe to start. The SM Nasdaq made its high before the New York session open high of the day. This is at 3 a.m. Central Time, making that high 21,858. And from that point, when the volume starts to come in, uh, it was a one directional move from that high.
and Coach, we can do. There we go. Where did we go right back to?
What's this white line, chat? The 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart here is, since we've settled above it and we had the 20 and the 50 cross above, there's one test. I'm going to count this as a test in the NASDAQ. It got close enough. Here's two. Here's the third one. The question is, do we stay above this here? Uh, we know that this market, if we look on a daily, is still in a range for the most part. So this could just fail right back under that 200 moving average, Coach Ball, in the 30-minute, and maybe come down and test that 20 on the daily. Tomorrow is the last day of the month. Uh, Coach Hoop was, kind of talking about that, saying, you know, potentially seeing some consolidation until we get into the close tomorrow. But interesting markets for sure, and ton of opportunity for traders on both sides.
Well, but speaking of the end of the month, let's put that monthly chart again.
Monthly chart here in the Nasdaq. We had March. The March high was 21,327. Of course, we had April, which was one of the craziest months that any trader has seen ever. Uh, and we're getting somewhat of a three-bar reversal. We'll know whether or not that's a confirmed reversal at the end of the day tomorrow, Coach Paul. Uh,
Yeah.
Confirmed three-bar reversal would be a close in the Nasdaq above 21,327.
Yeah. The mother of all wicks, and that's a monthly. That's not
Right.
that's not a stop run. Um, but I keep going back to that. Still positive structure. Can it change? Absolutely. But let's go back to the let's go to the 3 minute without the overnight. And I want to bring that up, just regular trading hours. When we
Uh,
talk about what volume means. Now, overnight volume, except for Liberation Day, um, look at the size of the volume overnight meant nothing. It was all price movement. When volume came in this morning in the first 3 minutes,
Sell it.
that was Now we can see, who's going to ante up, who's going to stay in for the pot. And we got an answer and relatively quickly. Um, Looking at that, well, coach, you're the opening uh range guy. I'll hand it to you.
Yeah, we established the opening range, 59.56 at the high, and I'm looking at a 3 minute opening range. Every trade is going to be different. Some people look at a 30-second, 1 minute. I look at a 3 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute. The 1 hour, which is the initial balance, which is still technically an opening range if you want to trade it that way. Shout out to Hogue. He was talking about some initial balance haters. Whatever whatever time frame you use that one. But in a 3 minute, the way I look at this trade is we established the range 59.37 at the low. We broke that initially, and the execution of an opening range trade is going to be different for every person as well. Where some people take it as soon as we break this, taking the short, you get the quickest action where you're in the trade right away. Uh, I like to personally add the confluence of VWAP and its relation to that range. When VWAP left the range, that was pretty much it for the rest of the day. We saw the selling start to accelerate once this VWAP left the range. Uh, at that point, it's up to you and your execution. How much risk are you willing to put on this trade? But I like looking at what you did here, Coach Paul, with the extended trading hours. Uh, taking them off the charts because we can see from volume to volume how the market responds. Right. This is where most of the trading happened in this price range. We had a gap. Question is on the open when volume comes back in, do we fill that gap? And today we did for a pretty nice sell in across the board in the equities. The S&P is trading around 5,900, that major 5,900. Shout out to Jack, who took some trades in the house account, trying to get long near 5910s. We just never really got as much of a bounce as I think he may have been looking for on this trade. But I like that idea, and we can kind of see the market responding around 5910s a couple of times uh, to look for a long, especially in these range bound markets. Um, Anything else you got here, Coach Paul?
Yeah, was that a J trade on the bottom?
Hey, yes, it was. You know I was getting to it. Uh,
Yes, that
uh, I'm looking at, we look at this. I default to 3 minute charts so we can see it here. Of course, volume doesn't say, hey, you know what, 3 minutes is over. Let's stop trading. So we did get a little bit of an extension. But again, whatever time frame you use, keep it consistent. I'm going to frame out that highest volume candle. Sometimes I will do this and just add, if there's two consistent volume candles, I may add that extra range, but we're kind of splitting hairs there. Um, Once we closed above it, you didn't get a 2-to-1 because again we didn't get that great extension, but you got a 15-point move to trade in the S&Ps, uh, and that would have been an inverted risk reward. You were risking about, if you risk the low of this candle, you're risking two to make one for how this played out. But still a decent opportunity, Coach Paul. If I take a trade in the S&P and I get 10 points out of it, I'm probably leaving with some profits uh, before
Well,
take the
it's
trade off.
interesting that that happened at the 200 bar moving average on the 30-minute. So
Yes. Okay.
I added that to it. Um,
Let me.
oh, yeah, that's on
Yeah. There we go.
with
There we
yeah.
go.
Um, but with this said, I mean, it's not. It bounced a couple times. It showed some weakness. It's a nervous market because every hour, half hour to the minute, it's on again, it's off again, it's on again. Um, and this market is showing the nervousness, but we're coiling by by the dip still. We'll see. I like the action. I think we get a rally out of this. Um, if not, I'll take a small loss. But all in all, we're still in an uptrend. Um, and trade accordingly. But it did bounce off that 200 with that volume um blowout.
Yep.
Uh,
And where it happened, a couple major levels here, right? We had 5,900 there, where if we were really going to sell off, that volume is not going to just stop, right? Where we had huge exhaustion. We understand that this is only showing as orange on this chart because the candle closed higher than it opened. Sorry, closed lower than it opened, but there had to be some buyers there as well, and it makes sense that they were buying off of that 200 moving average and that major 5,900 level, where in order for us to get continuation, you need to see better volume than this. Uh, Brad says YMJ trade was even prettier. I do want to point out one thing. We did, I was on with Hogue and Coach Hoop, and we talked about the range that the market was in. And in order to see continuation and successfully leave that range, I had said something that we needed about 8 to 10,000 contracts traded in a consistently, right? So consistent 3 minute candles of 8 to 10,000 contracts to break out of this range. I just put this 8,000. You can see the white line on this volume chart down here. I put that right at 8,000, and we can look at it. No point through the rest of the day did we get consistent volume of 8,000 contracts or more in a 3 minute period. We stayed in that range, right? If you look at the volume when the markets were actively moving, we were consistently over that 8,000 level and markets trading here. So a lot of below average volume uh, means chop range bound markets, which if you're a range trader, trade it. That's your opportunity from there. But we need volume to break out of that range. Um, Anything else on the equities, Coach Paul?
That's it for me.
That is it. Let me just take a look at what Brad is talking about on the Dow. I am kind of, oh, look at that. See, Brad, you're right. The Dow had that same structure and left that range a little bit better, right? Where we had VWAP leave that range, it came back, tested it, and popped from there. So that is pretty nice. And maybe the benefit to having the multiple equity markets up and seeing which one has the better flow for the day, and trading that one because there's more opportunity in it. Good eye there, Brad. And look at, see, same idea in the Nasdaq, completely different result, right? So this is where we talk about, and Linus Rain, you have a good one. This is where we talk about, the market I default to all the time may not be presenting great trades. Know what the setup looks like and take it in the market that's presenting it. That's a perfect example of that. All right, let's get to some questions, and then we'll go over to gold and crude. Uh, Forex entrepreneur Coach Paul says, "I need help. I'm struggling with cutting the trade. My bias is correct. My entry is early because I'm afraid of missing the trade." How would you address that?
Well, you used a very good word there, afraid. Now, you fear of missing out, or is it a fear of losing money? Um, your bias is correct. So, is now to define that? Is that your process? Um, I'm not sure, but we go back to the principles of successful traders, and one of them is to predefine your risk.
Yep.
This helps a lot. What's it going to cost me? You said you had the right bias, and your entry was early. Um, Big. So you have to. There you go. It's a good point there. You have to define your entry and put right out process. I use it four-step process that you have a checklist before you enter because you want to get in early. We've talked about this before, and that's a very common thing. Um, Recognize that how much it's costing you. If you're
Yep.
saying this is a problem and you're bringing it up, go in your journal and write these, and you get the result of that getting in early syndrome. I suffer from that syndrome too. There's no vaccination for it.
Hmm.
But through keeping a journal and repeating, like you can see the results of getting in early. To me, that's just great. feedback for you to go, okay, relax. Um, that's not what my process is. So first of all, you're taking a big step in recognizing you keep doing that. The next step is don't just watch it. Write it down, put it in a journal. Have now every time you feel like that, go back and see how much it's cost you. So you have real feedback. That's going to be a more of an incentive than just looking at it and knowing it. You go before that goes back to the if you feel you just it's called an impulse. Got to get in now. Maybe I'll miss it. Well, then your emotions are taking over. So go back to that. Mark it down. You have to do the work. You took a big step by recognizing it. Now use that journal if you're using TopStep X. It's right there. Take a copy of that. Have that checklist. What it does, it slows your mind down. How about you, Coach Jay?
I agree with you. And the my bias is correct. My entry is early because I'm afraid of missing the trade. What I did, I will switch over to gold because we're going to talk about gold. But what I did in gold was give myself a max allocation for the trade, and then build into that position, right? If you saw the trade that I took earlier today with Hogue and Coach Hoop, I wanted to get short gold, right? And I told myself I'm okay risking about $300 on this trade, right? So back to what Coach Paul just said, how much is it going to cost you? I want to get into the trade because I think it has the potential to move lower. What happens is when we over leverage, we have to be super precise on where your entries are going to be, because I have to be right at that point, right? It's either I'm going to be right or this is going to cost me my daily loss limit or my account or worse. So what I did was I started the position with a 2 lot micro, and saying, hey, you know what? I'm comfortable getting into about 5 to 6, depending on what the risk was, and I'm okay paying $300 to see whether or not the market agrees with my trade idea. So if you feel like you're going to miss a trade, maybe don't put on max allocation right away. What might happen though, let's say I got into this short and I got in 2 contracts and the market just dumped without me, then that's a function of the trade entry style that I chose. Right? Sometimes I'm going to get in and the market's just going to run and there's nothing I can do about that. But being able to get into the trade, identifying a zone that I'm comfortable at, accumulating a position in, and then letting the market work from there. As long as I define what that risk is, was important, right? My risk, not dollar wise, my risk based on market structure had to go above this high, 33.52. It had to, right? Because the market showed that it was comfortable trading whatever this range is. So whatever is up here and whatever my account can afford, that's how I go position sizing and make sure I'm not missing the trade either. Uh, Also, let go of the need to be right. We're all going to be wrong.
Yeah, you don't have to be right. You have to trade right.
Yep. Percent. All right. Coach Paul, gold daily chart.
Okay, we'll go to the gold.
What are we looking at here?
Well, what's the low there, Coach?
Purple line. It might be a different color on yours. That is the 50-day moving average.
We held,
32.65. We held it.
and we're in rollover too, so that volume is a little funky. So I'm not going to comment on it, but that rollover is going to be done today, for all intents and purposes, not intensive purposes, intents and purposes. Um, s- take a look at that trend line from the all-time high. That's going to be our. You can see where that's going. That's the next stop. We're holding that 20. We've had this sideways pattern. It keeps holding that 50. Um, coiling. Yeah. Um, would you call that a Dorito?
I think Dolby's on vacation, but yes, that is probably the definition of a Dolby Dorito, right? Consolidating range, uh, probably break out of that pretty strong,
Yeah.
whichever direction it decides to go.
Yeah. Um, so interestingly, it hit that 50. It didn't even trade anything there. It just went right up. So whether it was the selling stopped or that there was buyers there, let's look at the half hour, see if the volume gives us any clue.
There's a question in the chat. Do I trade moving averages? I look at them as reference points. I started using the 20, 50, and 200 moving average, after working with Coach Paul, but I use them as reference points. And it wasn't exactly there. It was at 65. So, but yeah, you get the idea.
That area. And we got a J trade there. So selling stopped. And
Yes,
look
it
at that.
did.
And there at the lows, this is on a half hour is a classic J trade off the 50. What time did that happen? Because
This was
I'm
8 p.m. Central Time, right when that Shanghai exchange opens, I believe.
okay. So wow, you tell me from here. Coach J trade.
That's a nice one. I didn't catch that. Someone did catch it. I think it was Claude. Claude, you were in slow markets chat last night, and you were talking about this trade. Dakota was short. Shout out to Dakota. He made most of his money today shorting gold, uh, and took his trade off at 32.69 down here at these lows because he saw the momentum stop. We were both. I was on slow markets with Dakota last night. We were both looking for maybe a continuation down to 32.60s, but he took his trade off because that momentum kind of died out. We can see perfect reversal there, like Coach Paul just said, off of that 50-day moving average. You see that exhaustion volume on a 30-minute and rallied right back up to the top of the range. 60-point move, 70-point move off of this reversal there. It's a pretty nice trade.
Yeah, that was quick and furious. It was the opposite of the opening.
Yeah.
All on tariff news.
On tariff news, Janine says, I'm still long from 32.72. Wow. What a trade. What a trade. And I'm bullish gold. Again, anything we say here is for educational purposes only, not a suggestion to take a trade, but pretty good entry you got there. I hope it continues, to be honest. Right off that 50 moving average on the daily.
Nice.
All right. Anything else you got on gold, Coach Paul?
Nothing else on gold. Um, besides what we've been preaching, we're caught in that. Kind of looks like black gold, Texas tea.
Let's take a look at crude oil. Shubham says volume and likes are less. I think it's an accumulation. Remind everyone so that can give us a breakout. Let's see a breakout in volume in the likes and hitting that like button. We are sitting in a consolidation right now at 47 likes with 616 people watching. They don't cost you anything. They're free. So let's see if we can get a breakout up above those hundreds. Shubham, we appreciate you. We appreciate everyone joining us today. Crude oil, Coach Paul. Here you go. Christian, this is for you. Go ahead, Coach Paul.
Well, look at that. If that's not a pinch move, I don't know what it is. That is the classic. Last night we tried to get went right to the 50, a little above it. Stop the buying stopped, and we just plunged back down to the what? The 20. Kind of like we were talking yesterday. We're still there, but we can't do this for much longer.
Or we can.
All
Or
right, you're right. I shouldn't say can't. The probabilities of continuing at this, it's
low.
low.
Yeah.
Um, overall, wow. I mean, great opportunities. I mean, if you're a range, we talked about this yesterday. I mean, let's start with what happened and last night on the first half an hour.
Another small 30-minute range last night.
2 to 1.
Oh, absolutely. Uh,
We got to the 50.
yeah,
uh, and definitely, oh, it's definitely to almost now. What was that price? I have it here somewhere if you want it. I have the crude 50
crude
at 62.
62.41. I have it.
Okay. I have it a little higher, but oh, it's because I have continuation. Either way, we got to that, rallied above it. Look what happened when we got underneath it. Now, we, oh, our friends in on the other side of the pond. What time do they open?
Uh, Here is the London Open right here. Up at the highs, the high of that range is 63 is the high of that range. We'll call it high of the day, pretty much. Again, once the volume comes in, this looks exactly like the equity chart. Once that volume comes in, rally on low volume. Happens when volume comes in. This is a non-validation. Price is just moving. No one's really trading it. Shouldn't say no one, just lower volume. As soon as volume comes back in, what do they think? Sell it. And that started in that London session, kind of increased through the New York session. Really
Right
nice.
back to the 20.
Right back to it. Right back to it. Patterns are patterns until they break. How do you approach this market going into tomorrow? I think if the pattern holds, the call is to take a long. But of course, we know that these markets can change at the drop of a dime, right? So, do I just blind long crude oil here? No. But if I get a signal to go long, I'm a little more inclined to take that trade uh, and accept the risk because to a high probability, that's what it's shown that it's done for the past 2 weeks, if not longer, 3 weeks.
And that's okay. Christian asked if we could look at the crude on an hourly chart.
Here's the hourly. It's very similar. You can zoom out a little. Let's take a look at the moving averages. Look, I mean, look at this mess. This is just like a bowl of spaghetti, right? Just all the moving averages wrapped around each other. Uh, what are you seeing here on the hourly, Coach Paul?
Much the same as the 30. Um, I, it's jumbled. There's nothing much to see there. Again, um, if we frame out those hourlies, we'd probably get about the exact same
Exact
result,
same.
and which would make sense just because this market is compressed. All the time frames are starting to meld together. Out of this comes big moves usually. An old term for that was a market is coiling.
Yep.
And then when it finishes coiling, it usually springs out pretty hard. My feeling and my experience is it would be to the upside, um, being commodity, but that's just a feeling. I asked my broker if my feeling could he could use that for broker for margin. He turned me down, but technically, it's really about the same. We're still coiling. Look at there's sharp moves up, sharp move down.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that continues maybe another week.
Agreed. Christian, you had a couple questions here. Typically, I like to set my stop loss just below the 50-day moving average on the daily chart when trading the 1 hour. What period EMA should I throw on to project the 50-day EMA? That's a math question. I am little loopy on Benadryl right now, so I'm not going to do any math. But it's a math question, right? You can figure it out. Ask ChatGPT. If I want to put on the 50-day moving average on a 1 hour chart, what would I have to set it to? It'll let you know.
Well, one of the things you can do, if I'm getting this right, is go to the daily the
Okay.
50-day moving average and mark a line on it.
Yeah, you could do that too. That'd probably be easier,
That's what I do. It's just much easier.
much easier. I get what Christian's saying. I think I did it on the 3 minute chart where we put that 2,000 moving average. Right, 2,000 moving average on the 3 minute chart is a 200 on the 30. So trying to do something similar to that, so maybe you don't have to manually draw it, but like Coach Paul, I mean, it takes 2 seconds to just draw the line manually, um, especially in a market that's not moving much. All right, let's get to another question. This is from Sam J. Coaches, can you answer why Thursdays are so much more favorable price action for me? I can only seem to make money on this day. Uh, From a price action perspective, Sam, I don't know that there's a lot there, right? What markets are you trading? If you're trading the equity markets, I don't know that I've seen equities trade better on Thursdays as opposed to other days. What I would say is if you identified that you make money on Thursdays and no other days, look at your schedule, and is there something in your schedule that is creating that? Why do I say that? There was a dad that I worked with doing 101s when we did one-on-ones a couple of years ago. There was a dad that I work with, and every Tuesday and Wednesday he had to bring his daughter to school in the morning, and his trading wasn't great. Um, Monday, I said Tuesday and Wednesday, right? So Monday, Thursday, Friday, he didn't have to bring her to school. Her mom did. He traded better on those days. So there was something in his schedule that was adjusting his trading, and he was still trying to trade because if this feels like a job where I have to do it every day and I have to be there making money. Or if Thursdays are that good for you, you trade 4 days out of the month, and the markets don't exist outside of that, right? But look at your schedule and see if there's something there that might be you know, kind of causing that. What would you say to that, Coach Paul?
Um, actually, it's the first time I've heard of something like that.
Mhm.
It's a nice problem to have. My immediate was like, then just trade Thursdays,
Yep.
like you said, 4 days a month. I don't, it's an interesting, quote unquote burden to have. But there, I don't think the market wouldn't be the answer. As the coach just said, maybe there's something you do on Wednesdays.
Right.
Um, it's a great question. I have no answer to that. First time I hold that, and it's a very interesting thing. Like as I
C
said,
CJ in
why
the
trade any other day?
right. Right. CJ in the chat said it could also be maybe seeing the structure and flow due to the previous 3 days of the week and then kind of, establishing a trade plan from there. Like, hey, this is the range that the market is trading for the week. It could be a bunch of different things. It could be a bunch of different things. I think take journal it, right? Write it because if it's a feeling and you just have it as a feeling, there might be something there. But if you journal the trades that you take on any given day, then you'll see what the variable is there, right? What time frame do you trade mostly? Sandeep, for me, it's a 30-minute and a 3 minute chart. I will reference daily charts to get levels. But when I'm actively trading, I'm looking at a 30-minute and a 3 minute chart. What about you, Coach Paul?
I trade on a day trade on a 3 minute and a 30 minute. On my swing trades, it's the daily and the half hour.
Chris Giuliano, on Wednesday, you get crude oil reports. Yeah, normally on Wednesday. Today they came out. They came out today this week because of the holiday. But yeah, they're usually on Wednesdays. Uh, Paul Ivan asked, "Where do I decide to put my zones?" Everything that you see me draw on the charts is based off of volume. If we're looking at a daily, and I'm just looking at this volume spike right here, right? So I did this on a daily, but I'll do this on a shorter time frame also. If we go down to a 3 minute chart, just mark out anywhere we see high volume. So we have something like this here. Don't want to cherry pick, so we'll mark that out as well. Go to last night and see where we had volume. Here's this volume spike right here. Notice I don't know what these prices are. I'm just looking at areas. Here's significant price action, so I'll mark that out. This is usually what my prep looks like for any market that I trade. And then watching how the market responds to it, right? We had this volume spike last night, which was at 7:27 Eastern Time, 6:27 Central. We come back into the New York session or London session, come back, check that price and reject from it. Could I use volume profile to do the exact same thing? Probably. But for me, this just helps me make sense of it because it's something that I put on the charts and I'm not allowing the indicator to show it to me. All right. How do you explain the benefits of having the ATR on the screen? Coach Paul, I'm gonna throw that one to you.
Well, the benefit of the ATR is to measure the market risk. Its ATR is the average true range. So throw true out, just average range in it according to that time frame. So in a 3 minute, if I'm entering a trade based on a 3 minute. Let's say it was on the opening. Um, I get an idea of how much volatility is in that market at that time in that time frame. So I measure my risk on using two ATRs. So we had a breakout to the downside. I use two ATRs in that case. It would be, what was it? Is this S&P
This is crude oil.
crude
Uh,
oil?
two
Okay,
ATRs at this point would have been 24 ticks.
so 24 times 2, 48 ticks, $480 to make double that. Now, one other thing, using the ATR gives you an idea how much you were willing to risk. If you're not predefining your risk, whether it's using ATRs or other, um, you're not really accepting the risk. Um, it's an extremely important thing. I use this is why I use the ATR. Um, another thing using the ATR, if you're within one average true range with your stop, there's a high probability you're going to be getting stopped out a lot. Why? Because it's within that frequency. It's another word is a frequency. Um, if we use a scientific thought pattern, if you're within that frequency, guess what? You're going to get stopped out a lot.
Yep.
While you might not have bigger losses, you can die a death of 1,000 cuts. I've done it. I only want to risk, like in this trade, but I only want to risk $100. So you put your stop in and bang, and then bang again, and then it eventually goes your way. Well, that means your stop is too tight. If you can't afford the 480 or you don't want it, you could look at mini, or there's even micro crude.
Right.
It gets you an idea of sizing up your risk based on the market at that moment. I hope that helps.
Good stuff, Coach Paul. I want to answer a question from JT in the chat. How much have I made from trading this year? I'm actually negative on the year right now. I think all the coaches should show their process along with their stats. Do you guys just share strategies without showing results? I'm negative on the year. Uh, the amount of money that I make, though, doesn't change these strategies. While I'm negative on the year, that has everything to do with my execution and nothing to do with the strategy. We have traders in this chat that have said that they made money trading the strategies that we trade, and that's why we share it all the time, right? So this is as much of a keeping myself and holding myself accountable in my own trading, um, and executing a process. But I'm negative on the year now. Whether or not that changes your perception of the information, that's on you. I'm going to continue to share it, but my goal here is not to be the best trader. Uh, that's a side goal, right? And I do want to uh, trade and make money myself. But for day trading, I am negative on the year. Hopefully that helps. Whatever your question was, but that's honesty there. Any other markets you want to talk about, Coach Paul?
Um, Casey, answer a question for the 200-day moving average on the 30-minute. Do you guys use a simple or exponential? I use a simple. You could use either. Um, I'm a simple guy. No, I've done back tests on both, and there really wasn't that much of a difference. So I chose the simple.
Yep. Any other markets you want to talk about, Coach Paul? I'm trying to remember what was on the scouting report yesterday. Coach Paul, you freeze?
Yeah, I did. That was it.
You were in deep thought there for a second.
It
I
was
thought
a
the
deep
stream
thought
froze.
there.
I was like, "Oh man, what just
Uh,
happened there?" Sea Sun Moon Lover, I appreciate you. Yeah, Dakota posted something on his Twitter. I didn't hear no bell, so it's not over. We still got a lot of time left in the year. We're about halfway through the year, uh, and my execution earlier this year has not been great, but bell hasn't rung yet, so keep pushing.
well, but you can't. First of all, coach, on that, you can't choose when you're going to make money.
Correct.
It's a process over a time. You can have losing. If you're going to do this, you're going to have
Mhm.
losing years, most likely.
Losing years? Oh
Losing
no,
years.
you mean it's more than
Yeah.
just accepting that one trade is going to be wrong?
Yeah. Um, I look, go look at the huge funds. They don't have, except for very few. When they haven't given away their secret either, they don't post their trades either. Renaissance, they're having a losing year.
Yeah.
The last I looked, um, one of the greatest funds of all time. So in that, there's it's kind of random. Good years, bad years, great years, bad years. You could have bad years and really great years over time, and you're doing fine. Don't fool yourself. Is it maybe this is a reality check? There are going to be years of losing.
Whole year, not just a trade.
Yeah. If that, I mean, if you don't realize that, I'm just going to tell you now. You do this long enough. There are years you can't, as we don't mention this book often enough, but if you haven't read it, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, there's a great quote in there. Even a skunk couldn't make a cent in this market. In those times, he would just go fishing, go do something else. But there's when you have great years, and here's another thing: year to year. When is the year start? Ask
Right.
in a finance, what is your fiscal year versus your year? Um, Focus on the process. Become a consistent trader with good risk management. When you do that, you can build an account and trade larger.
Eric and Brianna says losing years are easy. It's what I do every year. Granted, so fast. This is the furthest I've gone into a year and still be green. Yeah, I mean, they're going to happen. Do we want them to happen? We don't. And that's why, for me and Coach Paul, you said it. It's good to have a separate stream of income, another stream of income, because Coach Paul just said you could have a negative year. Now, a lot of the goal for a lot of traders is I'm going to solely rely on this. Have you accounted for a year where you don't make any money from doing this? And I don't care who you are, and social media likes to put out on X on Twitter that, oh, I'm this great trader, I'm the best trader, come and follow me. Uh, a lot of that is self ego driven. Why does it matter how much money I made if I can't help you make any and you're watching me? Do you want to be entertained or do you want to actually make money? Um, so, you know, yeah. To get back to
Wow,
i-
that was
if I
that's a great
if
point.
I'm the best trader in the world, understand chat, I'm not giving anybody in this chat a dollar. Maybe if you really need it, but keeping it for myself and so are most other people. So it doesn't matter how much money I make if I can't help you make any. If I helped you make money, steal this from Ian Dunlap from Earn Your Leisure. Put yes in chat. Put a yes in chat if I helped you make money this year. I want to get back to James. Scott had a question, and Jay, no problem. I have no problem being transparent. That's why we are here. And you asked the question, uh, you know, and people should share that. So, good question, good conversation. All right, James Scott asked, "Do we anchor VWAP to high volume?" We do, but it's not. It's to identify what the flow is after that high volume prints. Right here is two perfect examples of what happens. Uh, you know, with that VWAP. Here's high volume. This was the market open. If you attach VWAP there, it shows you from that point the flow was downward. Here's another high volume candle attaching VWAP. VWAP is flat and never leaves this range. This here says range bound market fade extremes. This picture here, regardless of the market it shows up in, says that there's a potential trend at least in the shorter time frame. All right, so that's why we're doing it this way, to identify how the market is responding since this high volume printed. But good question there. Uh, any other any other
Yeah,
markets? Yeah, go ahead, Coach Wall.
I just said that while we're at it, Chris Giuliano. It took me 7 years before I became consistently profitable, and it was all risk management issues. Thank you for that, Chris. That's exactly it. As I said before, if I was king of the world, I would change the name of trading to risk management because what are you trading? What are you managing? You're managing your account. You're managing your money. And it took 7 years. It took me about the same.
Yeah,
Um, but without that, without understanding what it takes, and it really the core of that is risk management. I've seen traders come in at the right time and make a ton of money. Even if we go to reminiscence of a stock operator,
yeah,
he was not a good money manager. He could make huge amounts of money, but he'd give it away. I don't know if
man, that's
it
such a good
was.
point. It doesn't matter how much money you make if you can't manage it. Making money's the easy part, right? Keeping it is hard.
I didn't get the message of that book because it's such a great book to read about. I mean, there's a lot of drama in it. Drama. There's a great amount of great advice on trading. But Richard Dennis and once said that I don't know if you know one of the greatest future traders of all time, and he brought that up. He goes, he ended up broke and committed suicide in a bar
Hmm.
after the crash of '29 that day. And that stunned me. At first, I was offended. What do you mean? This is,
Right,
but it goes back to this. If you don't, you can make all the money in the world. If you don't manage it, you got to keep. It's not what you make; it's what you keep,
100%.
and you have to build this. And it just doesn't come to you. You have to be able to manage it. And in that book, in the end he didn't. He was over leveraged. It happened quick. Um, So in that whole process, we talked there's going to be losing years, there's going to be losing months. It's part of the game.
Part of the game. Part of the game. Just reading through some comments in the chat. Got some yeses in the chat. I appreciate you, and I want to shout out anyone who. And again, you don't have to learn from me. You don't have to learn from Coach Paul. You don't have to learn from anybody. But any information that you take and implement and help uh, you become a better trader. Shout out to you as a trader for executing the process, right? I see some traders saying, "Oh, I was able to take payouts with this process." I can tell you anything I want, right? We're just two guys doing a show on YouTube. You're taking the information and saying, "Hey, you know what? There's something valuable in there, so I'm going to take it and make it my own and execute it my own way." Man, I just adjusted that, Coach Paul, to the low. I love this game. I love this game. Uh, All right, we are at time. I didn't even realize that went by pretty quick. Any other markets? Anything on your scouting report, Coach Paul? Before we move on,
Um, yeah, watch that gold. Um, it has potential for a big breakout either way. Watch that 20 and 50. Um, Probably won't happen on a Friday, but it could.
ACH,
By the way,
ACH.
it's Friday in Asia right now.
Mm,
So I still think be, Fridays can be really funky end of the month. It goes back to risk management. Don't over trade. End of story.
Overtrade. Zidar asked the question, "Why do my charts and camera look so clean here, but not on slow markets?" It's a logistical thing. To be honest, Dakota and I were trying to figure that out last night. Where Coach Paul looks clean on this stream. My charts are clean. My camera's clean. Um, and when I get on slow markets, I look like I'm an 8-bit video game. Um, and but when Dakota has someone else on his stream, it's really clean. So we're trying to figure out exactly what's going on there. Neither one of us have poor internet connections, so I don't know. Uh, it's something
It
going on.
might
But
be that you're coming through the Topstep feed, right?
it's so no, it's the blurriness of the charts on the stream. So I think it has something to do with the software that we're using to share everything. Uh, but you know, we'll figure it out. Hopefully, the information is not blurry. Hopefully, whatever I'm sharing with you on the charts is clear. Dakota has better internet. He might. I mean, this stream looks pretty clear. I think I'm streaming in 4K right now. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. Too much awesome on one screen. Can't take it right. And the Eagle says, Coach Paul is fire, bro. Coach Paul, the tidbits and information that you give out for traders, uh, I appreciate it. I
Oh,
appreciate you, Coach Paul.
and I appreciate being here and sharing them. Like I said, the reason I do this is to share some of these experience. Anything you've been through, I've been through it, brother. For all of you
Right.
or sister. Um, and I was blessed to have been tutored and mentored and given advice by older traders in the Chicago Board of Trade, that looked at me and said, "Hey," it gave me some knowledge. So I'm here to parse that out. Um, and then it's after that, it's up to you to execute.
I was just about to say, it gave you knowledge. Ever give you any money?
No, absolutely no.
Take this information, do what you will with it, make it your own.
Yeah. And by the way, all of them had losing years too, and they all went through this.
Yep. Yeah.
It's part of the game.
Brian has a question, and then we'll end it after this one. If we were in one prior VIP season, are we eligible for another one? You are, as long as you weren't in the last season. So a first, if you were in VIP season one, then you're eligible for this season. But if anyone was in VIP season two, which is the one we just got out of, then you're not eligible for the upcoming season, right? But I got nothing else, Coach Paul. You got anything before we go?
Um, Manage your risk and follow a process, and that's it.
There we go. Stories had a question about 100K XFA. Make sure you read through the Top Step uh, Help Center on the rules of the accounts. I'm currently 1,400 in profit. Can I lose up to 3,000 or is it still trailing? It trails until the initial drawdown of the original drawdown of that account. So you're trading an 100K account. Your initial drawdown is $3,000. You made 1,400. So your drawdown is still $3,000 until you clear that $3,000. At that point, it stops trailing you. But make sure you read through that. You know, and this is not directed at you or anything like that. But I've seen so many times people like a new prop firm will come up and people are like, oh, they're selling accounts for 13 cents. Let me go get 100 of them. And then you trade your account and you can't get a dollar out of them because you didn't read the rules. So don't do that. Right? If you're going to pay somebody for something, read the rules of their house because the worst thing that and it's not muddy like that with Top Step accounts, right? It's very clearly defined what the process is. Um, You don't want to throw money at something, expect a return, trade really well, and then say, hey, you know what? We ain't paying you shit. Get out of here. And some firms do that. That's why I like where we're at, Coach Paul. But thank you, everyone.
Amen to that. Been there,
Yep.
and that's all I'm going to say.
Yes, sir. All right. So thank you everyone for joining. We do have Coach Hoop coming up and doing a class in about 8 minutes in Discord. We have Coach Ray and Coach Vince, 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time. Dakota with slow markets tonight. Baron is going to be joining him, 7:30 Central. And we have Aaron doing the London Open at 1:30. No Euro trade today with D because tomorrow is Friday. Of course, we have the daytime show. Trade well, everybody. Manage your risks. Don't feel like you need to rush this process. The markets are always going to be here. Uh, Said something yesterday during slow markets. Or if you have a P&L goal or you envision these targets in your mind, the markets are going to move either way. Figure out who you have to be in order to execute your trading plan. Talk to you all tomorrow. Tell somebody you love that you love them. And we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.